Tonight, the 24th day of the month of Teveth, is the Hilula, the Yohrtzeit of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe is known on different names, Rabbi Schneur Zalman of Liadi, and mainly as the Baal Hatanya, the author of the Tanya. I'd like to take a little synopsis of what Tanya is and why it is so important. Tanya is known to be the Torah Shebiksav, the written law of Chassidus. But what is it? So the Alter Rebbe himself states that it is a collection of sayings by authors and teachers of Torah of previous generations. Indeed, every detail which says in Tanya can be found in earlier sources. But as the way the Alter Rebbe presents it, they constitute a literal revolution in understanding of our inner self and the purpose of our lives. Before the Alter Rebbe authored the Tanya, or without learning Tanya, the human condition was a crushing feeling over a never-ending conflict between instinct and understanding, emotions and intellect. Why is it that I desire things I don't want to desire? Why is it that I need to force myself to do what I've already decided I want to do? Am I such a weak, confused individual that I don't know my own mind and cannot act on my own convictions? So without Tanya, the typical person often feels or felt as if there was not one, but two selves residing within us. A lower self that lusts and obsesses and grabs and greeds. And there is a higher self that commits and shares and is capable of awe and makes space in itself for higher truths. We typically yearn for tranquility, for inner quiet, for a resolution of the unending struggle within our fragmented heart. But unfortunately, this yearned for tranquility never comes. So the Alter Rebbe comes in Tanya and affirms, yes, indeed, there are two selves inside us. And yes, they are engaged in constant battle over control of our lives. And the Alter Rebbe explains, we each possess a self-focused animal soul, which instinctively desires and craves that which is beneath it. Joie de vivre. And we each have at our source an upward-focused, godly soul, Ruach Elikim Oile Lemaila, that is aware of its source in God and strives to reunite with God, just like a spark craves to be absorbed in the great fire from which it emerged. And therefore our every action, word and thought, our every motive, craving and desire is an outcome of this ongoing battle within our hearts. And then the Alter Rebbe declares, indeed this struggle, these conflicting desires, this confusion and self-doubt and inner turmoil is our challenge and our purpose. The Alter Rebbe further explains, there are tzaddikim, those who have resolved this conflict and whose two souls strive in harmony, whose selfish self has been trained and submitted and brought in sync with their godly self. But these individuals are far in between. Most of us are beinanim, intermediates, typical human beings, spiritual warriors, whose calling in life is to fight the battle with integrity, with gusto, and with joy. Why do we need tzaddikim and beinanim? The reason, because God desires that. Because there are two types of pleasures before God. The first one is from the complete nullification of evil and its transformation from bitterness to sweetness and from darkness to light, done by the tzaddikim. Now there's a second pleasure for God. When evil is repelled, while it is still at its strongest and mightiest, and it is repelled through the efforts of the Beinani, as we said earlier, the warrior. An example can give him of food. There's one kind of food which we enjoy, which gives pleasure, which is something sweet, something pleasant. But there is another kind of food which comes from sour foods, which are spiced and prepared in such a way that they become delicacies that revive the soul. This is the Beinoni. And this is our task and battle. But we have to battle it with conviction and determination because we know that we have God's help with it. And as the Rabbi Yitzchak said, that with this Sefer, with the teachings of Tanya, we will go and welcome Mashiach. Because we battle. And we battle today even more than ever before in this particular time. And we say to Hashem, please bring us to the finish line, which is the revelation of Mashiach right now.